to science class. I'm Mr. Roney, and today we're going to be talking about how our traits can change depending on the environment. And last time we talked about traits being things that you could look or you could observe in an animal, a plant, yourself, or another organism that tells you something about it. So one of the traits we talked about last time was things like hair color, eye color, and a lot of those traits are things that aren't going to change over time. If your parents have brown eyes, for example, and you have brown eyes, it doesn't matter where in the world that you live, your eyes are probably going to stay brown. But there are some other traits that might change depending on your environment. So think about what kind of clothes you wear when it's cold out versus when it's warm out. Your behavior is going to be a little bit different based on what the environment outside is like. So if it's really cold out, you're probably going to wear a coat. If it's hot out, you might wear a t-shirt or some other lighter kind of clothing. So some of the traits that we have don't change, but some of the traits do, and we're going to focus on some of those traits today. Let's take a look back at the pea plant experiment that we did way in the beginning of our closure and check in and see how they're doing. And then we can observe some of their traits. So here's a few video clips of what the pea plants look like right now. If you remember back to maybe a month ago, those plants were just tiny little seeds. And guess what? All of the information that turned these pea plants into pea plants with flowers and pods like you see now came from that little tiny seed. And those are examples of inherited traits. So things that seed probably got from its parent. So take a look at some of the pea pods. What do they look like? What color are they? Are some bigger than other ones? Those are all examples of inherited traits. But there's one thing I noticed about these pea plants that probably is different because of the environment that it's in. Do you notice that there's a bend in some of the pea plants and the way that they're facing? Yeah, that's not an accident. The pea plants are actually growing towards the window because they want to get more sun. So the pea plants in the front are growing very tall, and the pea plants in the back, or farther away from the window, are kind of moving their stems so they can get as close to that sunlight as possible. I bet you didn't know that about plants. Yeah, plants actually grow towards the sun. If I were to put them in a different window, or if I were to turn the pea plants around, they would actually start growing in the opposite direction because they always want to grow towards the sun. Now I want to read you a very interesting story about something that really surprised me. And this story is about animals who learned to change their behavior because they lived in cities. So usually it would be really surprising for you if you knew that a cat or a dog actually rode on a bus like a human. This story is about some cats and dogs and monkeys and other animals that have actually learned how to ride on trains, buses, and other kinds of public transportation just like people. So let's check it out. Super simple science. And our title is Animal Commuters. Animals that live in cities have some unusual behaviors. You might have seen a cat or dog crossing the street, but have you ever seen one riding a bus? The bus pulled up to the bus stop and opened its doors. A white cat wearing a purple collar leapt through the doors and crawled under a seat. A few stops later, he got off the bus. I suppose he is the perfect passenger, really. He sits quietly, minds his own business, and then he gets off, said a man on the bus. You know that people can teach animals new behaviors. Dogs can learn to shake hands, and birds can be taught to say words. But animals can also learn to do new things on their own. Cities are not natural environments, but some city animals have learned behaviors that help them meet their needs. These include finding food and shelter. Animals can learn new behaviors to adapt to a city environment. Some cats that live in cities in England have learned to use their buses and trains. That is so cool. Ooh, here's a picture of a cat. Some city cats board buses to get food and stay warm. The bus riding cat is named McAvity, and he lives in England. Several days a week, McAvity boards the bus from the same spot. After riding a few blocks, he gets off. His stop is always the same place. Where does he go? No one knows for sure, but there is a restaurant that serves fried fish where he gets off. He probably gets food from this shop. McAvity has learned to use the bus to help him get food. Another cat in England named Dodger also learned the same trick. Dodger boards the bus by himself from a stop near his owner's house, and when the bus reaches that stop again, he gets off. He does this 2 or 3 times a week. His owner believes that Dodger likes the warmth of the bus, and he often sits in passengers' laps. Here's another picture. Some stray dogs have learned how to ride the train. They use the train to find food in the city. Here's a subtitle here in red. Dogs riding trains. Cats are not the only animals that catch rides on public transportation. In Moscow, a big city in Russia, trains carry many passengers each day. Some of the passengers are stray dogs. Stray dogs use the train to find food, and many of the dogs sleep outside the city, but go into the city to eat. So the stray dogs get on the train each morning and ride into Moscow. Then they return home at night. How do these dogs know when to get off the train? They might use their powerful sense of smell to find the right spot. They may also remember how long the train ride is to know when to get off. Some dogs may even recognize the name of the stop when it is called. Dogs can learn the sound of words, just as they learn the sound of their own names. Monkeys on the metro. In Delhi, a large city in India, thousands of rhesus monkeys, that's a kind of monkey, roam around freely. They are not easily bothered by people. The monkeys have even learned to beg for food. Often the monkeys board metro trains in search of food. A metro train is a subway. The monkeys have been known to travel from one station to another looking for food. Some even sit in the seats and hang on to the handrails. At least they are safe passengers. Cities around the world are growing, and as they do, more animals will learn to live in city environments. People will likely bump into more animal commuters. Look out! Soon you might share a seat with a passenger of another species. And we've got one last picture here, and this is a picture of the rhesus monkey eating some food on someone's car. And our caption says, some animals, like this rhesus monkey, are learning to live in city environments. Let's review a couple of things we learned today. First of all, we went over what the word trait meant. A trait is basically something that you can observe on an organism. What does an organism look like, and how does it behave? And today we talked about a kind of trait called a learned behavior, or something that changes based on an organism's environment. If you found a cat out in the country, it probably wouldn't be riding a bus. But that cat in England, because it lived in a city, learned how to ride a bus, probably so it could get warmth or food. So just like animals, humans can change their traits over time too. And like we saw with the pea plants, they can change their traits depending on what their environment's like and where the sunlight's coming from. So what I want you to try today is take a look out your window. It should be pretty quick to find a bird or a squirrel or something like that. And as soon as you find that animal, write down a few of its traits. Make a list. What color is it? Does it fly? Does it have a beak? Does it have a nose? Things like that. And then what I want you to do is think about whether that trait is something that's inherited, something that comes from its mom and dad, or something that it's learned because of its environment. If you see anything cool outside the window, please leave a comment in Google Classroom and let me know what it is. There's no assignment in Google Classroom today, so don't worry too much about that. I will see you guys here tomorrow for another science class where we're going to do a hands-on activity. So make sure you bring your energy and your curiosity. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.